When you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you.
If your heart is in your dreams, no request is too extreme. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. How many of you know the words to that song? That is so good to know. Okay, over here, almost all of you. Thank you. Great to know.
Lita and I, first of all, we're honored to be here. We are really honored to be here in this space and time with all of you. And we're very grateful for the Center LDS Arts Committee, for a shout out to Chris and Janae Baird for hosting us.
Thank you.
We're just grateful to be here.
And it moves me to be here at this festival. I think Glenn Nelson said it this morning, there is a spirit here, and we love being where the spirit is. President Nelson said this, as we are gathered together in this crucial part that women can play in the moving forward of things. He said this about women. We need to understand our spiritual gifts, to expand them because they will change the world. They will shape the future by helping to gather scattered Israel. It is a cause that desperately needs women because women shape the future. Changes, even miracles will begin to happen. We need you. We need your strength. We simply cannot gather Israel without you. And I add my testimony to each and every one of you that Israel cannot be gathered without women in the arts. As Martin Luther King said, I have a dream today. Happy Black History Month, y'all. What a beautiful dream that is.
We've entitled this presentation, Dreams Deferred. The title's coming from Langston Hughes' famous poem. And just like Nephi, when he had a dream, Lehi had a dream, and Nephi saw that dream. Nephi also had a dream of going to the promised land, but it was deferred many times through challenges. His brothers tied him up on this ship, and he was tied up for many, many, many days? A long time, boys and girls. But the bottom line is, after his brothers untied him, the first thing Nephi did, do any children know the first thing Nephi did?
We call you little people.
Little people.
Little people.
What did Nephi do after his brothers untied him? He did forgive them.
What's your name?
June.
Thank you.
He did forgive them, and yes, that's it.
Okay, well, woo.
He forgave them, and he prayed. He prayed. How many of you, if your dreams are deferred, you think to pray?
So, this is what we are here to do. Kevin and I are here to share stories of some women who had dreams and who prayed, like you, June, who contributed to this work of gathering on this earth and continue to do so on the other side of the veil. We are here because we lend our voices to theirs.
Do dreams really come true? I need the kids to let me know. Do dreams come true? Because I have asked that question so many times and so many times before. I've always seen kids wish for things. And I've always wondered, what are they wishing for? What are they wishing for, and will it come true? And what happens if it doesn't come true? Dreams sometimes are deferred. And what do we do when they're deferred? I have always loved this phrase, the long promised day, because I await for the long promise. There's many long promises days. A promised day when Christ comes, when it's my birthday. A promised day happens many times. Well, in my life, I've waited a long time for the long promised day. And the question is, what do I do as I wait? Because there's a word called patience. That's just a very difficult word. And it's hard. That's a hard word. That's a hard word, and I don't understand that word when you put it in front of a black man from Utah telling him patience. When you put that word in front of a woman saying patience. When you put that word in front of anyone who has waited for their dreams with knowledge, when they've waited for their dreams with maturity, to say patience. When they've waited for their dreams with dignity, to say patience. A 2-year-old needs patience. They have not paid their dues, and they have not lived on earth long enough. They don't know how to fully have knowledge. They don't have maturity. They don't have dignity in waiting. They don't have dignity required in the art of patience. There are some adults who act like 2-year-olds, bless their heart. They don't know how to wait with dignity. I have relatives that live down south in Virginia, and I've learned this phrase. They've said, you can say anything negative about a person as long as you say, bless their heart. He's ugly as dirt, bless his heart, or God love him. But there are some adults, bless their hearts, who haven't learned this word patience. It's difficult to hear for a lot of people, patience. From the poem, Langston Hughes, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore? Have you ever thought about that poem, or fester like a sore? Do you know we all have choices? We all make choices, and we have responses to the sun. The baking sun. Have you ever thought about the effect of a baking sun, being in the hot sun? Do you feel like you shrivel up like a raisin sometimes? Or what about the effect of the sun? Even Jesus Christ has on us when our dreams are deferred. Maybe the effect is that we're not drying up, shriveling like a raisin, but maybe we're being seasoned. Maybe this dream deferred, this patient has to do about being seasoned. What's the effect that you have? What's the effect that the sun has on you? What happens when dreams are deferred? Some people think of the glass half empty, half full. So imagine you have a glass. All my young people, are you looking at that glass thinking, oh, mommy, it's half gone? Or do you think, oh, mommy, it's half full? What is your perspective? Growing up, I've had many examples of festering like a sore. I've known many angry women, many angry men, many angry black men, many angry black women, many angry Hispanic, Asian, people of all sizes, shapes, colors have been angry. I've also met some people who had knowledge, dignity, maturity. When the heat comes upon them, they did not give excuses. They took responsibility. We have 2 sons. Well, we have 5 kids, 3 daughters, and they're perfect. 2 sons, they're growing, and they're great sons. But my sons are playing ball in the living room. Now, first of all, should you play ball in the living room, children? Not in my house. Wayne is playing ball. He throws it to Chris. Chris catches. No, he doesn't catch it. He misses it, and it breaks one of Mom's vase. Now, Mom buys things at DI. So I'm thinking, it's a broken vase, so what? But it's her vase. She's not happy. Who broke the vase? Chris threw the ball to Wayne. Wayne didn't catch it, and it broke Mom's vase. Whose fault is it? Mom goes to Chris and says, what happened, Chris? Chris points to Wayne, and my wife says, what's your name? I'm not talking to Wayne. I am talking to you. What's your name? Chris. Do you know my wife expects Chris to take responsibility and say, I was playing ball in the living room. Thank you. She goes to Wayne. She says to Wayne, what happened, Wayne? Wayne points to Chris and says he threw it too hard, and my wife says, what is your name? Wayne, I am talking to Wayne. And when I'm talking to Wayne, Wayne has to take responsibility. He can't use anyone else's name. He has to say, I was playing ball in the living room. That's taking responsibility. We have many adults who need to take responsibility when they're late to work. Oh, traffic. Is your name Traffic? What is your name? My wife would say. I did not anticipate traffic. That's someone who takes responsibility. Now, the importance of learning excuses, because excuses are tools of the incompetent, built upon monuments of nothingness, and those who use them seldom amount to anything. We have people whose dreams have been deferred, who are dealing with this word patience, and they're making excuses. As Langston Hughes' poem, there are many different ways you can respond to this idea called dream deferred. I'm grateful for the historical work, historical research by Paul Reeve. I'm grateful that he has introduced me to a lot of wonderful historical figures who, like a raisin, has made choices when they become in heat. They made choices, they reacted differently, they responded differently when heat came. There are many wonderful stars that I have learned, these black women in history that are members of our LDS church who have made choices, despite the heat that's been placed upon them, have made choices when their dreams have been deferred. They have not made excuses. How many of us are artists who get what's called artist block, a writer's block? You get stuck and you can't, or you feel like, I don't have an opportunity. Everyone else has the opportunity. It's really sad that in our society, women's work is not viewed as men's. Do you know that they did a study and they put art in the room, women's art and men's art? Now, art is not sexist. You can't tell the difference, and no one can tell the difference between whose art was a female's art and whose art was a man. They couldn't tell. If a boy does a drawing or a girl do a drawing, you can't tell who did what. And the people in the room in this experiment, they could not tell either. But when they told them which side was women's art and which side was man art, everyone preferred the men's art side. They preferred the boys' art. And we discovered that women's art is valued 40% less than a man's art. That's not fair, because both are divine, gifts from God being created. We need to value these lost stars. Dreams deferred. I want to tell you about one woman who didn't give excuses, even though she may not have been valued as a man, as a white, as a Latter-day Saint. She still had dignity. Her name was Novella Frances Sargent Gibson. What a hero she is. What a heroine she is. Let me tell you a little bit about her life. And I'm a little older, so I have to do this. Novella Frances Sargent was born and raised in Carolina County in Virginia. She was baptized in 1906 and lived to be 93 years old. She was a Latter-day Saint, and her family moved to Washington, D.C. At Washington, D.C., in D.C., when they joined the church, she was very surprised at all the challenges she went through. She was ostracized by people outside the church. She saw some racism by people inside the church. She was very surprised that her friends, even her black friends, ostracized her for joining this church. She talked about, she says, when people would call her the white N-word. She never knew what the white N-word was, but people called her that. They were left out of social functions, weddings, and didn't receive invitations. She was shunned, she said. Shunned from the inside, sometimes shunned from the outside as well. She spoke of a time where she went to a ward, which was a ward where Elder and Senator Reed Smoot went to. His wife, Alpha May, was very kind to Novella. When Novella experienced prejudice or racism, she spoke of Sister Smoot coming and sitting next to her, sitting by her. And all the Novella said was, "It doesn't bother me." She says, "Those things don't hurt me. I just pray for them. They really don't know what they're doing." She was not distracted by the things that happened to her. She still was heading towards her dream. She participated in Relief Society. She participated in the choir. She sung in the choir. And in 1976, she was so excited to attend General Conference in Salt Lake City. President Neil A. Maxwell gave her front row seats. You see, he was her home teacher in Washington, D.C. 2 weeks after the marvelous revelation came in 1978, in D.C. Temple, she received her endowments at 85 years old. She waited a long time for that long promised day. 72 years after her baptism, she was able to continue and renew her covenants. What a woman she was. Think about the patience she had. Think about the long suffering she had. What an example of not being distracted by racism, prejudice, concerns. Instead of focusing on what she didn't have, she focused on what she had. She had Jesus on her side. And when Jesus is on your side, who could be against you? Instead of focusing on the opportunities that wasn't afforded her, she focused on opportunities that she did have. Because I have been given much, I too must give. Novella she had knowledge, maturity, dignity, and she had faith. What an example. As I think about this poem, Dreams Deferred, she didn't shrivel up. She wasn't sore. Did she shrink like a rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like syrup so sweet? Oh, how sweet she was. I feel that she knew how to embrace. She knew how to take her choices and turn them around. The question is, what do we do? There are powerful women in history, powerful women like Eve, Sarah, Sariah, Ruth, Naomi, Deborah, Emma, Jane Manning, my queen Lita Little. Women here today who know their power. They know their priesthood power. They know their maturity. They're in the gospel. They have dignity and long sufferings. They have faith. And yes, you heard it right. The first thing I said, they know their power in the priesthood. Young girls, you have power, and you're growing your power. I want you to hear the words from our prophet. Russell M. Nelson said to women, "I hope the sisters understand the spiritual treasures that are theirs." Every woman and man who makes a covenant has a distinct access to the power of God. Those who are endowed in the house of the Lord receive gifts from God, priesthood gifts, priesthood power. When you make covenants, along with the gifts and knowledge to know how to draw upon that power. The heavens are just as open to women who are endowed with God's power flowing from their priesthood covenants as they are to men. Priesthood is not a male word. We think of priesthood being a male word. It's not. It's a godly word. And priesthood flows to all God's children. And the question is, women, do you know how to use your power? And are you using your power to create, to love, to serve? Sons of Adam, daughters of Eve, no excuses. The time is now. Step into your power. And if you think your dreams are deferred, think about Nephi, think about Naomi, think about the women of the scriptures, the faith they had. Bad things happen to good people. Bad things happen to godly people. But suffering is a choice. Let me quickly share with you how I relate to Novella, because I also have had challenges in my life. And at times I've allowed it to disturb me, but I thought to myself, I can't allow it to deter me. I've enjoyed my association with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for a long time. I love being a member of this church. Notice I said holistically I've enjoyed it. I've been blessed to know the difference between the perfect organization and the imperfections of man. That's challenging. Dreams of mine have been deferred. Coming to Utah as a family from the East, dealing with stories that I was cursed, sitting on a fence. That was a challenge. Dreams deferred. Going on a mission and feeling like I'm acting in a movie, driving Miss Daisy, when my mission president tells me, Elder Giddins, I've always wanted a black chauffeur. Do you mind driving me around? That was challenging. The misunderstood leaders telling me as a missionary, stop baptizing so many black people. These members can't handle it. Mission bishop locking the font so I can't get into the font. I called the mission president. He said, you have authority to baptize. So I used my New York skills and broke into the font. We had baptisms. I did not let that deter me. I love being a member of the church. I do. My testimony is built upon the gospel of Jesus Christ, not upon imperfect men. When I was asked, how do I love living in Provo, Utah? I love it. Of course, I'm not bitter because I realize there are many ways of dealing with it. Maybe will I shrink like a rotten meat and crust over? Maybe it just sags like heavy load. Or does it explode? I've learned from parents not to explode, Kevin, when things don't go my way. When my wife and I moved to Utah, we've had challenges, difficulty. We trying to rent housing and people saying, sorry, no vacancy. And as we walk away, we see another couple who, from a different perspective, get the house. We then did experiment with our friends. We said, can you call this location and see if the house is available? They called, they went down, it was available, they left, we came back, they said, no, it's not available. Many things have happened that we can prove. I've had people tell me, unfortunately, I've gotten situations where police officers mistaking me for a lot of things. I wind up in jail, having my boss tell me, well, Kevin, please don't arrest people for no reason. You must have did something. What did you do? The bottom line is I can tell you story after story of my dreams being deferred, but the question is, what is my response? Bad things happen to good people, but suffering is a choice. As I close out my thoughts, am I going to explode when things don't happen my way? Am I going to act like a 2-year-old and get upset? Or will I find the joy of exploding, of excitement? I can either look at explode as a negative, anger, or I can look at explode as excitement. Like a raisin in the sun, I want to be seasoned for greatness. Novella is a star to me. She is a star because despite all the challenges she had knowledge of who she was, she had dignity, she had faith. I hope the daughters of Eve, despite all the challenges that may be out there, you don't allow them to prevent you from creating, from soaring to the stars, from dreaming. I hope the young Adams in the world don't allow anything to deter them from dreaming. I have a dream, and I hope that that dream, if it's deferred, I will know how to respond.
Oh, I thought that was for me. Thank you. Okay, just a really quick question before I go on. You know, when he was depicting me as that mom, I'm a really good mom. I hope you got that. I'm a really good mom, and I'm the opposite. I called myself the cool, smart mom. Okay. All right, now, again, thank you, Paul Reeve. Little people remember that. Cool, smart moms. That's who we are. Okay. Now it is my privilege to share with you a brief story of the life and dream of, picture, Kevin, Freda Lucretia McGee Beaulieu. Okay. Freda was born in 1900 to Ardella and Samuel McGee in Mississippi. They had 8 little people. Against the criticism of white people, Ardella and Samuel had already joined the church of members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when Freda was baptized in 1909. Freda recalled her childhood home to be a happy home filled with fun times, especially when the family would surround the piano to sing and enjoy others' company. Okay, so who knows the song to When You Wish Upon a Star? Who raised their hand? Okay, all right. So I'm coming over here as if I'm Freda, gathering around the piano. I'm here by the piano. And you're going to be my family. You're going to lend a voice to Freda and their family by singing the first 2 verses of When You Wish Upon a Star. Thank you, Kevin. Go. When you wish.
Anything your heart desires will come to you. No request is too extreme when you wish upon a star
As dreamers do. Thank you. Okay, was that a fun time? Thank you for lending your voice and helping my family like that. If you were Freda, she'd be so happy. Okay. Freda grew in stature. I did not. And she increased in faith as she learned from her parents to read the scriptures, pray, observe the word of wisdom, and to pay her tithing. When Freda was 25 years old, she married Robert H. May, Jr., but said it was a very unhappy marriage. But she says, I made the best of it. While caring for his 5 children as if they were my own, Robert hated Mormons and forbid me to go to church. But I continued my scripture studies and prayers. When I was able to get a little money, I put a portion away in the trunk for tithing. Then, Freda divorced Robert May after her children were old enough to care for themselves. She moved back to Mississippi and took her trunk of tithing money with her to give to the church. That is patience. Okay. Freda moved to New Orleans, where she met and married Rudolph Beaulieu in 1938. Rudolph was Catholic, but this was a very happy marriage. Freda said he was the love of her life and was a great support to her when it came to her faith, which I believe was a positive influence on Rudolph's life, which women, like most of us, have in the lives of our people, our husbands, our men lives. We have that tendency to have that influence. Now here's an example. When Freda fell ill in 1944, it was Rudolph who tracked down the Mormon leaders or leaders from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in New Orleans to give her a blessing. That was a miracle in itself because Freda had no idea there was a branch of the church in New Orleans. And the branch president and first counselor that went to minister to her didn't even know that she existed. So Freda wrote the mission headquarters in Atlanta to locate the elders to give her a blessing. But Freda suffered an intense pain as she waited for a reply to her letter and for someone to come. The first counselor, Parker P. Warner, said this. Now listen to this. The faith which led Sister Beaulieu to wait patiently through her sufferings until those bearing the priesthood could reach her and give her a blessing was such as I had not witnessed in all my experience. I was astonished at my own confidence in the blessing I pronounced on her head. And when we had sealed that blessing in the name of the Lord, I said to her with all the assurance of one who was absolutely sure and had knowledge, Sister Freda, I know that you will be well soon. And she replied, yes, I know. Thank you. And she was. So there was power in her faith, and that power is the part of her art that I think Sister Eubank was talking about. We have that spiritual art that helps us to be faithful, to remember to pray, and to embrace that power. Okay, in 1982, leaders of the New Orleans stake asked Freda to speak at stake conference. She was too nervous, so she gave her written talk to someone to read. No, not yet. She was too nervous. I'm still a cool, smart wife, too. She was too nervous, so she gave her written talk to someone to read. In that talk, Freda shared with the congregation a dream she had had that had been deferred for years. But when it finally came true, Freda said it was the happiest day of her life. Now, what was that day, and why was it so important? I am Freda standing next to the podium while someone reads her talk. The happiest day of her life.
I would like to declare July 21st, 1978, to be the happiest day of my life. It was the day that Robert B. Evans, the branch president who found me sick in bed in 1944, stood in as proxy for my beloved Rudolph, so we could be sealed together for eternity in the Washington, D.C. temple.
Thank you. That was the happiest day of her life. That day occurred exactly 1 month and 13 days after the public announcement of the opening of the LDS priesthood and temples to peoples of all racial backgrounds. That was one of the happiest days for many people all over the world. Freda traveled 1,000 miles from New Orleans to Washington, D.C. to be sealed to her husband, Pierre Rudolph Beaulieu, who had died 6 years earlier. Okay, who knows the bridge to Wish Upon a Star? We're going to continue singing this because now her dream has come true, and we're going to sing about fate. Okay, I'll do it a cappella. Okay, we will do it a cappella. Fate, that's our pitch. Fate is kind. She brings to those who love the sweet fulfillment of their secret longings. Thank you. Okay. Lending a voice to those who are no longer here, I think is important. No, I know it is important. So thank you for lending your voice to Freda. As I stand here with Kevin, I feel that maybe a part of the dreams of Novella and Freda have been and were deferred to us. Kevin and I were sealed in the Salt Lake Temple. We didn't have to wait. The priesthood restriction had been lifted, so we could go to the house of the Lord together to be sealed. And that day happened on May 31st, 1991. We met as students at BYU. We were young ambassadors together. We dated. And we went on tour to Russia. And when we came back, we were sealed for time and all eternity in the Salt Lake Temple. And I testified that that was one of the happiest days of my life.
Me too.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to hear that. Okay. Unlike Freda, because I don't want to be alone in that. Unlike Freda, who didn't have children, I think and I hope and feel that her dream was deferred to us. We started our family 9 months later. After we got married, our first daughter was born. We have 3 daughters, Camlin, Grayson, and Ian. And they've all served full-time missions. Camlin to the Jackson, Mississippi. Grayson, Georgia, Atlanta North. Ian to the Long Beach and Anaheim mission. Oh my gosh, what a dream that is. And our 2 sons, these 3 girls born under the covenant, our 2 sons we adopted were sealed into our family on December 11th, 2004. Our dreams have been deferred from them to us, and we embrace that. Okay, Kevin and I, we were gathered into the church through the arts. I was in middle school, and I was in a choir class, and I was chosen to sing a solo for the regional choir festival. And I sang from Brigadoon, and if anyone knows this, you can sing too. Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow it over the hill and stream. Look, look, look to the rainbow, follow the fellow who follows a dream. Thank you. So I met the brother and sister, and they introduced me to the family, and then I had the missionary discussions. I had to wait till I was 18, but on October 7th, I became a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Kevin came as a non-LDS person in BYU, became a member of the Young Ambassadors. 2 months later, he's joining the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Again, priesthood restrictions lifted. He didn't have to wait. Such a great blessing. Okay, so now, here we stand. We also serve missions too. Here we stand. Oh, I guess you have to do that, huh? Privileged to lend our voices to the dreams of these women. Thank you for lending your voices to their lives, which are works of art in themselves. And their lives, as we lend their voices to them, will not be lost. We would like to share a song in closing as a testimony of what we as artists get the privilege to do with our gifts and talents, to increase the awareness of who, what, how, and where we can lend our voices to so many female works of art.
These women all use the power in their priesthood. They use their beauty, they use their gifts. Their lives for a while have been lost in history for a time, but they're coming forth. As we tell their stories, we follow their examples, my dreams are manifested.
No pressure, you get to listen this time. Before Lord God made the sea and the land, he held all the stars in the palm of his hand, and they ran through his fingers like grains of sand. But one little star fell alone. So the Lord God hunted through the wide night air for that little dark star on the wind down there. And he stated and promised he'd take special care so it wouldn't get lost no more. Now a man don't mind if the stars grow dim and the clouds blow over and darken him, as long as the Lord God's watching over him, keeping track how it all goes on. But I've been walking through the night and the day till my eyes get weary and my head turns gray. Sometimes it seems maybe God's gone away, forgetting the promise that we heard him say. And we're lost out here in the stars, little stars, big stars, blowing through the night. Yes, we're lost out here in the stars, little stars, big stars, blowing through the night. We're lost out here in the stars. We testify our sisters and brothers are not lost to God. Their dreams are deferred to us. May we continue to lend our voices to theirs. We cannot gather scattered Israel without them. Last one. Like a bolt out of the blue. Can you sing it with me last time that we can lend our voices? Like a bolt out of the blue. That's high. Fate steps in and sees you through. When you wish upon a star, your dreams come true. In the sacred name of Jesus Christ, amen. Thank you, Charles.